The MVP race isn't new to drama. About every 5 years, we're forced to split hairs between two special talents, measuring greatness against greatness, weighing the spectacular against the unbelievable. But even by its usual contentious standards, this one feels different. Nikola Jokic is having one of the best statistical seasons of all time. So jarring, we've had to check box scores 3 times just to make sure our eyes weren't playing tricks on us. And over in OKC, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is putting together one of the most outstanding regular seasons a guard has ever managed. He's making 30-point games look effortless, adapting to double teams in real time, and pairing it all with defensive playmaking that warps game plans. The debates have been loud, boisterous, and occasionally toxic. Right now, we're all just fumbling over reasons why one of them has to get the award. How can Jokic go home empty-handed after his best season yet? How can you ignore what Shai has done on a historic Thunder team? But at the heart of our inability to reach a consensus is a question that cuts deeper than the analytics or the eye test. What does most valuable even mean? We don't have an answer, but maybe we'll find one if we look at how we got here. There was a reckoning at the conclusion of the 1980 NBA season. After the votes were tallied and the results double-checked, the player's choice revealed itself, and it wasn't all that dramatic. The MVP trophy was going home with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The base numbers built the case, the defensive stats backed it up, and the win share totals drove the point home. But nothing ever happens in a vacuum. There were a couple of things at play here. The first took place 11 years ago, in 1969, in a transitional year that saw many of the game's established stars aging out of their prime, as the ascending ones worked to find their footing. A surprising candidate took home the most prestigious individual award in basketball. Wes Unseld, a rookie averaging 13.8 points per game and 18.2 rebounds, was named the most valuable player in the game by his peers. It left many in the media dazed and confused. To the public, and especially the press, it seemed as though Willis Reed, Billy Cunningham, or Elgin Baylor all had stronger claims to the trophy. But the players had spoken. They valued Unseld's unselfishness, his mythic outlet passes, and his effect on his team. The Bullets had gone from 36 to 57 wins in just a single season, largely due to the rookie from Louisville. That was the first mark against them, and the next was that 1980 award. It wasn't that Kareem didn't deserve it, or that his was as tough to craft stories around as Wes Unseld's. It was just repetitive. Abdul-Jabbar had won 6 of the last 10 MVPs, and headlines don't read the same as reruns. The disconnect had been building, and this was the last straw. The media couldn't connect with the award, and if the media couldn't connect with the award, then the public couldn't connect with it either. These were the days of tape delays and limited broadcasts. Most of America still got its dose of modern culture from the paper that hit their doorstep, and if that paper couldn't sell the moment, then the moment didn't matter. So the ones with the pens took control of the ballot boxes too. The MVP would now be voted on by the media, and they went to work building a set of parameters that were consistent, coherent, and captivating. How hard could it be anyway? Article 1. No need to state the obvious. The new voters were blessed. For the first 10 years, they had a stable supply of viable options, from Moses Malone and Dr. J to Magic, Michael, and Larry. Geographically scattered icons with unique play styles and competing peaks. You could pick your favorite, make a case, and wrap it in a grounded, compelling narrative. It was a sports journalist's dream, but eventually, most of those legends traded in their jerseys for suits, except for one. And in 1993, he was clearly the best basketball player in the world. He led the league in points, led the league in steals, and spearheaded the Bulls' three-peat pursuit, leading them to a 57-25 record in the process. The evidence was bold, clear, and emphatic, but Jordan had already won the last 2. Giving him a third in a row was boring. It didn't say anything new. Everyone understood how great MJ was. Why coronate someone already wearing the crown? But if you're going to hand the throne off, you needed a qualified usurper, someone the people can get behind, the voters can defend, and the moment won't reject. He didn't have to be a new face of the league, just plausible. Thankfully, there was a ready-made candidate in Jordan's golf partner. Charles Barkley was playing his first season in Phoenix, and the addition of the All-NBA forward led to a 9-win increase, giving them the best record in the league at 62-20. His stats hadn't moved much from the season prior, when he finished 12th in MVP voting, but this time he wasn't buried on a post-Dr. J Sixers team. He was the face of a real contender. The Bulls weren't the story that year. They had been the story for the last two, and in 1993, all the eyes were on the Suns and their blinding offense. The voters followed the spotlight. They sent the trophy home with Sir Charles, and in the process, authored the first byline in the developing handbook for MVP voters. If the first story's already been written, find a new story. Article 2. It means more with less. Just after the dawn of a new century, the Los Angeles Lakers were the talk of the town. They had Phil Jackson patrolling the sidelines in fresh-pressed suits and Jordans, a young Kobe Bryant enthralling crowds and covering posters, and in the center of it all, a hulking, bruising Shaquille O'Neal, tearing apart front courts and breaking backboards. There wasn't much of a question. Shaq was the most valuable, the best, the most dominant, whatever semantic specification you wanted. Number 34 was the man every team game planned for and every center feared. He was the centerpiece of the best team in the league, the beating heart of a building juggernaut. But that just wasn't fun. Sure, the Big Diesel was something special, but he had Kobe, he had Phil, he had a steady rotation of high-level role players around him. The people didn't want to hear about a guy doing what we expected him to do, and the storytellers didn't want to write about it. Shaq had already won it the year before. What about the guy doing it without a co-star? The gladiator challenging the giants, not the colossus dominating them. What about Allen Iverson? AI had a case. He was leading the league in points, leading the league in steals. Critics could harp on the efficiency all they wanted. This wasn't the most offensively potent roster. Iverson was doing what he had to do. Shaq might have been better, more well-rounded, entirely unstoppable, but he wasn't as evocative. Iverson was putting a city on his back, carrying a hard-nosed defensive group further than anyone had anticipated. By most metrics, the Big Diesel was the most deserving, but he was nowhere near the most inspiring. So the next line in what was shaping up to be a lengthy doctrine was put to pen. Weigh the accomplishments against the expectations and value the disparity. Article 3. Nothing trumps a win. After Shaq packed his bags and boarded a cross-country flight to Miami, his young co-star took center stage, and by 2006, he was one of the best scorers of all time. Kobe was polished, athletic, dynamic. He could still go by you in a single step or over you at a moment's notice. But now, the back-to-the-basket game was coming together. The shimmy fades, the turnarounds into pump fakes. The arsenal was frightening. When the season came to a close, his numbers reflected the terror. He was putting up 35 points a game to go along with 5 boards and 4 assists. So now, with 2 precedents under our belt, let's take a moment and check the bylines. First, would this be repetitive? No. Kobe had yet to win an MVP in his career. Second, did he have extra help, or was he benefiting from a stacked roster? No. The next 2 leading scorers were a 26-year-old Lamar Odom and Smush Parker. It felt like a slam dunk, an easy selection to take the pressure off the voters. But there was a storyline streaking through the desert, and a damn good one too. Over in Phoenix, a long-haired Canadian was slicing through defenses and serving easy buckets up on a platter. Steve Nash was leading the league in assists, and the Suns had assembled the best offense in the league. A rebellious squad ushering in the pace and space revolution, with a hyper-efficient floor general setting the table. Nash's team was better. Nash had won the award the previous season. It was an argument. Captain Canada's resume was as serious as it gets, and the Suns' 54-28 record was a step up from LA's 45-37 mark. But we had our bylaws in place. Kobe did more with less. He was the novel choice. Based on our new standard, it had to be the Mamba. But these kind of guidelines are living documents. They're made to be rewritten. The 2006 MVP stayed in Arizona, and with it, we got our first clause. If your team isn't good enough for your performance to impact the season, all accomplishments are null and void. Kobe Bryant would finish 4th in MVP voting. Article 4. The value of aesthetic. The next couple years had their fair share of tumultuous ceremonies, headlined by a controversial 2011 race that saw Derrick Rose become the youngest MVP in NBA history, but they all followed the rules we had grown accustomed to until 2015. Over in the Bay, the three-point revolution was getting started. Klay was redefining the term heater, Draymond was taking small ball to the next level, and Steph Curry was making shots that didn't make sense. Smothered deep balls, logo threes, and quick release prayers were all finding the bottom of the net. You don't always get to watch the future walk boldly into the present, but thanks to the chef down in Oakland, we were all getting front row seats. But there was another culinary artist cooking down south. The beard was combining brute strength with the skill of a gym rat and fueling the offense of a 56-win overachiever in the process. His raw numbers were better than Steph's. His team was inarguably worse, and even with the Warriors' lofty 67 win total, Houston wasn't too far behind. But if you were there, you could feel it. Curry was changing the game in real time, challenging the age-old rules of shot selection and actually winning. In the moment, it made sense. It might have challenged the history slightly, but it would have felt wrong giving it to anyone other than the baby-faced assassin. The voters knew what they had to do. Trailblazers have to be rewarded. So the skinny kid with ankle problems got the validation he had earned, and the awards parameters were tweaked once again. On the bright side, they could keep this one short. Impact can't be captured by the numbers. Article 5. Sometimes it just feels right. It was starting to feel like we had a solid, somewhat contradictory, but close to consistent standard that we could apply to any MVP race. An empirical strategy melded with Socratic debates that would lead to conclusions that could appease the people. That next year, we even got our first unanimous MVP, but 2017 felt foreboding. That atmosphere carried that kind of static electricity that precedes a monstrous storm. James Harden was still doing his thing with the Rockets. Honestly, he had gotten even better, 29 points, to go along with a league-leading 11.2 assists. Houston's entire offensive strategy was give this guy the ball and space the floor, and it carried them to 55 wins, all without another all-star on their roster. In most years, he could have mortgaged a loan against the trophy by early March, but this season went beyond basketball. This was an existential drama. Back with Harden's original team in Oklahoma City, the soul of small markets had been wounded. Kevin Durant did the unthinkable, following the call to Golden State, and in his wake left shattered dreams and fractured futures. The Thunder were supposed to be the promising young team that did it the right way, built organically, and beat the big guys. And this all but sealed it. That was never happening. Still, they had Russell Westbrook, and if anyone could scream into a void loud enough to ease the pain, it was him. The Brody delivered a masterpiece so rageful, it comforted what couldn't be healed, and the emotional impact rippled throughout the basketball landscape. The triple-double average, the scoring title, the ridiculous exclamation mark in the final game. It was enough. The impact, the efficiency, the history, it all told us Harden. But really, in the moment, it felt like Westbrook. Those fans weren't seeing a Larry O'Brien, but the god of thunder wearing number 0 earned them a trophy, a new byline. Sometimes it's more than basketball. There you have it, the consistent, coherent, and captivating set of parameters that, when applied, will lead you to the rightful MVP. The correct choice will be a proven superstar and a new story, carrying a lackluster supporting cast and leading a true contender, and statistically reinforced while being inexplicably captivating. Unfortunately, along the way, we discovered that straightforward and exciting aren't easy to blend, and valuable is a pretty vague term. Consensus isn't common, and as much as we wish there was, there's no science to this. To some of us, the MVP is the best player in the world. To others, it's the best player on the best team. Maybe it's the most impactful, the one who defined the season. Some years we'll get it right, some years we'll get it wrong, and in time, we'll all critique through the clear lens of time. But while we're stuck in the present, let's appreciate where we are. There's not much more that can be said about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's having one of the greatest seasons a guard has ever had on a historically great team. Nikola Jokic is routinely shattering our understanding of the game we've watched our whole lives. These two are consistent and captivating, and you could build a coherent case for either. We've changed the rules, rewritten the bylaws, stretched the standards to fit the moment, and maybe that's the point. The MVP isn't a verdict, it's a reflection of the season, of the culture, of us.